All right. My name is Chris, and this is going to be a channel about the patch notes, and I hope to put out a video about twice a month, depending on when the patch notes come out, and I'll try to get the next one out a lot sooner than this one. I've been playing League since early 2009, several months before it went live in October, and with a friend of mine, I got to Diamond in Season 3, but I haven't been playing as hardcore since then, and I just wanted to make this channel to talk about League of Legends with my friend, and with that in mind, I'll toss it over to my friend Johnny.
Alright, so I'm Johnny. I started playing League, I think the same time as Chris, or maybe a little bit later on, probably around 2011, Season 2 or 3, I can't remember when, but...
You definitely were playing in Season 1.
Oh, then maybe it was a little bit earlier, but I didn't fall in love with it immediately. I actually quit League for a long time and then came back to it, and then I fell in love with it after I gave it, another chance. But the highest rank I ever got, I believe it was Diamond 1, purely just on support, and I've been playing support ever since. And now I want to hang myself.
Well, I just like to say he achieved that rank in Season 6. I've done the research.
Yeah. Just kidding.
Okay. Let's get down to our first ever change, and I think it's ironic that it is Bard, one of the champions that I have very for a long time decried as a terrible pick. But he has gotten so many small buffs over the years, I think he is actually a legitimately good champion now. Alright. Now when we first look at these changes, just a small base damage and scaling buff on his chimes, and max heal on his delayed heal when the shrines are out for like 30 seconds. I think that this is actually a really powerful change for a support because they're very low econ, and any bonus to their base numbers is always very powerful. When I think of Bard, I kind of think a lot of like Recon 2 supports that are kind of semi-poke, semi-engage, and semi-healing and shielding, but not really good at any one of those. Now, Bard's more on the poke side. And I think most changes to Bard have been very good for the last few years. Johnny?
Actually, I disagree with you a little bit in regards to Bard because...
Well, fuck you.
I just feel like Bard is more of a roaming support as opposed to a poke support.
Yeah, with the passive, I forgot about that, yeah.
With the passive, yeah, I think that they should have buffed his roaming a little bit more, but it looks like they're buffing it to where perhaps he could stay in lane and be more useful with the Caretaker Shrine as he's roaming away. So I think this buff is really nice, to be honest. It's going to leave more relevant, healing and potential for ganks too when they come back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I completely forgot about his passive. Actually, the third part about his passive, since he has 3 separate passives, basically. But yeah, a buff to the movement speed he gets per charm collected would be another really nice buff to complement that roaming potential, like you said.
I think they should. I don't know. They should really work on that because, man, it's like, I don't AD carry a lot, but when I do AD carry and I have bards, I do get the level advantage when he's roaming around for his Traveler's Call. What is that? What are the chimes?
Well, it's right there, Caretaker Shrine.
There you go. I mean, now that they're buffing the chimes, though, when he comes back in...
Oh, the chimes are the things he collects with his passive.
Yeah, so now it's good that since they're buffing that, he could come back in and be a little more relevant. So, that's pretty cool.
Alright, to be honest, I would not prefer to be supported by a Bard. That's just my personal preference. I like a support that's more of a committal on one aspect of support play, like super poke, super engage, that kind of thing.
Yeah, when I see Bard, I dodge or I just flame them all game. So
even when you're the support too, somehow.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on. We won't be doing I won't be getting down on a lot of these bug fixes unless it's a bug that's so prevalent that we talk about it, or it's one of those like ninja nerf bugs where they call it a buff, but it was actually just an established feature for a very long time, and for some reason they decided to change it. But we won't really be going much into bug fixes. or simple stat line changes like health, mana growth, that kind of thing, unless it's super relevant. Now we're going to move on to Ezreal. And I got to be honest, I'm always a fan of Ezreal buffs because, as most people are aware, he's not a hyper carry. He's hard to get a lot out of in the late game. He is, I'm not really sure where his power spike is. I don't really think it's the early game, and I don't really think it's the late game. So I guess that leaves the mid game. I'm a big fan of this change because it's since the change to ability haste from flat cooldown reduction, it's really easy to get like 80, 100 ability haste, and since his Q reduces the cooldown of his abilities by 1.5 seconds, and this is a flat 30-second buff at 18, we're looking at a lot more ultimates.
Yeah, dude, I love supporting Ezreal. I think he needed this buff sorely because now, thank God, we're going to see him in lower elo. I always love me some Ezreal.
Well, I feel like he's one of those champions that's always been very accessible to newer players because I don't want to call him a low-effort champion, but he is like someone who's not as AD carry mechanics focused as, like, say, Jinx and Ashe, stuff like that.
Yeah, just remember, man, when the AD carry Ezreal blinks into the team, it makes you really want to break your fucking keyboard. That's pretty cool.
Okay, well said. Anyway, I do think it's bizarre that he's gone through this many years and his ultimate had the exact same cooldown at all 3 ranks this whole time, which is, I think, pretty much unheard of amongst every AD carry's ultimate when you think of like Dravens, Ashes that are similar. Okay, now moving on to Fiddlesticks. This change I could not agree with more. If you were around for Fiddlesticks in the old days, he could very easily out-drain heal the damage he was doing to someone in a 1v1. The old Fiddlesticks, it was a single target heal, mind you, which is not like now where he drains off everything that's next to him. But in the old days, he got 100% of the damage as healing back, and it was very few champions and a lot of scenarios could out-damage the heal just standing next to him while he was constantly draining. And I feel like that gave him some 1v1 potential that he's been missing for like several years. So I think this is a very welcome change.
Oh my god, dude. I can't wait to see some Fiddlesticks mid. I think I might even pick him up as support since this heal is like bonkers. But, I mean, anybody with half a brain could CC him out of his, new little buff.
That's why I figured they gave him this change. Is CC and interrupts are so much more prevalent now than they were the first years of the game, when this guy's Drain was a way more powerful 1v1 tool.
Yep.
Now, even with this buff, and 20% is a big buff, I think that he's still going to have a hard time. Like, if he doesn't get someone with the original Crowstorm, all-in combo, he's still going to have a hard time, like, 1v1ing someone.
Yeah, man, we'll see. We're going to I don't know what type of elo he's played at, but it's going to really benefit. Oh, no, it doesn't even benefit the jungle. It says champion, so that mid or support. There you go.
Yeah, I do see him play a lot more support than anything, to be honest. Change I always wanted to see, and I'm surprised that this didn't happen when he first got his rework, was a significant base damage buff to that. I can't remember the name of the ability, but when he drags his scythe across in front of him and does damage in a kind of a cone effect to everyone in front of him and then silences people in the middle. I was hoping for a 50 damage base buff on that is a good little auxiliary trading tool that replaced his old Dark Wind bouncing ability that he used to have.
Oh man, I do remember. Yeah, they switched it, didn't they?
Yeah, it used to bounce 16 times or some crazy shit when it was maxed up. And it would silence every time it bounced you, so it could silence for 2.5 seconds if 2 people were next to each other.
Are you talking about Reap? Is that what you're talking about?
If that's what his new E is called. I don't have it up right now, but
yeah, man, I didn't know that they are silenced from the center of it. That's pretty crazy. I don't really play him that much.
Yeah,
I think they buffed him.
Yeah, I think he's one of the more unsung, unpopular champions in the game because he's kind of he just fills a very awkward place as a kind of a squishy AP jungler. There's not a lot of people like him.
You know what, man? I really, and you called it the best. I think you said it the best. they need to start switching up these suicide kits. Like Fiddlesticks, you have to blink in. Nocturne, you have to go in. Any of that Zed, anybody with the suicide kit, it's like really hard to. I don't know.
I don't feel it applies to as much as Zed because he can only swap with his W and Ultimate Shadow.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, right. That's true.
All
I guess
right.
really it's just Nocturne. Jesus.
He's getting a rework within like the next year and a half.
Well,
I'm sure they'll give him some slimy new mechanics or something.
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to Jhin. Now, I played a fair amount of Jhin, and I'm one of those Jhin players who doesn't actually put a point in my E so I can max my W sooner to get the longer root duration. And that'll be even more impactful now than it already was. I personally think his E is a bit awkward in his kit and doesn't really bring much to the rest of his abilities. And I honestly think Jhin is one of the best well-designed and well-balanced champions in the game for someone who isn't necessarily a hyper carry in the conventional sense. And when I look at these changes, I'm perfectly fine with that because I think most people might disagree with this, but his W is actually fairly difficult to land because it's extremely thin. It's one of the thinnest skill shots like in the game along with Corki's ultimate. And I'm perfectly fine with this change. And the bonus damage to monsters, trust me, this is purely for Dragon and Baron snipes. When you see like someone who's not a jungler at all get bonuses to monster damage, it is purely for like Dragon and objective sniping.
Oh, I thought it was some stupid asshole in silver could take a jungle like an asshole. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that might come into play. But yeah, maybe with 100%, maybe you could even start with his W at level 1 and try to steal the blue buff from the enemy jungler. It just opens up the field a little bit more. The ratio on it is pretty bananas. It's like 100% or half of his AD, but since he's someone who can easily get to like 6, 7, 8, 900 with, builds that abuse his passive, it's pretty impactful.
Well, let's hope that he doesn't get banned into oblivion, man. That would be upsetting,
I don't think he's ever really been a champion who gets banned super hard. He's just inherently a balanced champion because his attack speed is gated behind the reload mechanic.
Yep. He takes really bad trades when you can't reload properly. But I think, honestly, this is going to open up, with the damage to the monsters, it's going to open up a lot of roaming potential. So he could shove the lane and then go get some good snipes somewhere, or maybe probably harass the other lanes. That'd be kind of cool.
This could even open up a W max instead of bouncing grenade max to push the wave. We'll have to see.
Exactly.
Alright, we won't talk more about this Jinx change. Basically, I'm perfectly fine with this change since she's a hyper carry. I don't mind the fact that she lost like 50 HP at level 1. What do you think?
Well, I mean, in lower elo, she either gets picked almost every single game or banned every single game. Just with this, man, she's just going to get focused a lot more. So with this reduction, she's either going to get banned, not picked, or she's going to get clobbered at level 1. That's for sure. It looks like it gives people a lot more aggressive choices starting. That's pretty cool.
Personally, I don't think changes like this are terribly impactful. I feel like level 1 is always something of a shit show, even if someone starts with like 650 health, or they're one of the champs that only start with 5 something. Level 1 is such a coin toss that I don't really feel like this change is too terribly impactful.
Yeah, it doesn't seem really relevant, but you never know, man. One Q, one piece of poke could mean the difference between a kill,
Alright, let's move on to Kaiser. Now, this change is probably going to upset some people. Now, as someone who watches some pro scene, Johnny, how much of this change is because of Faker? Because I know he's been sporting this lately.
This is 100% because of Faker, and it is way too prevalent in the lower elos, and Kaiser's annihilating everybody. It's just, oh my god, dude. Do you know how many Kaisers I see go mid because of Faker now? It's like 95% of games.
I gotta be honest, I was actually, before her W like spam thing got like big, I actually wanted to play her like full AP, but not because of the W spam, just because all of her other ratios and ability scale with AP pretty interesting too.
And I've seen Faker carry games with just Kaiser. Did you know the SKT or T1 or whatever it's called now? They went 18-0 in their regular season.
I don't watch the pro scene, but I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, they clobbered everybody. I don't even remember if anything was close. There may have been close games. Jeez, dude. They went a little bit ape shit. So
All right. Well, let's talk about these changes specifically. The big one that's going to stand out in a lot of people's mind is this AP ratio nerf to Void Seeker, which is the huge line skill shot that has a much bigger hitbox than the animation would seem to indicate, which is a problem with, I might add, I think a lot of the abilities in the entire game, with I think the most grievous offender being Jinx's ultimate. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, this looks like a big nerf, but it's actually not that big a nerf as most people think. I think a lot of people that don't play Kai'Sa aren't going to realize that while this is a direct nerf to Void Seeker, the reason her W does so much damage is because it also applies her passive 2 and 3 times when her W is upgraded. So it's also doing instances of damage of her passive, not just instances of damage with her W. So trust me, that Void Seeker is still going to hurt a lot. And
that's right.
To compensate this change, they increased her health shred ability by like double right here, and that is usually detonated by her W at like close range. So she definitely gained stuff in this this patch at the same time.
God, man, and especially when she jumps in with the killer instinct. Look at that. They get 25%. Oy.
I actually think she should have always had 100% AP ratio on that to match how potent it scales with AD. I would honestly be fine if it was even 125. It only lasts for 2 seconds. I'm perfectly fine with her little, save her nuts skill being really potent like that.
What's cool though about the Void Seeker getting reduced, now people can opt for a little bit more counterplay and not get poked down so hard.
I think people like kind of Q-Max Varus with lethality, people are going to still cling on to this because of how prevalent Faker made this look so good. People are going to cling on to this until it gets nerfed at least one more time.
It's so crazy how in the pro scene, if something gets too big, Riot immediately nerfs it, so nerds can't use it. Whoa.
Alright, let's move on to Kassadin. Now, Kassadin is a champ that's near and dear to my heart. This was one of my original most played champs a long time ago. I kind of stayed away from him because he's been like a really hotly kind of controversial and very feast famine, super nerfed, super buffed, heavily changed champion the last several years or whatever. But a long time ago, before he got his new W, I used to play him a lot. Now, going to these changes, the first thing you have to understand about Kassadin is a long time ago, all of his abilities had super high base numbers. Almost all of his abilities had base amounts of almost 300 or 280. He lost a lot of that in time, and now his Q and his E and his W, they all now don't even do 200 damage when they're ranked out at max 5 or rank 5 anymore. And to compensate that, they give him bananas AP ratios. Now, this change to his Q is merely for the magic damage shield only component. I gotta be honest, I always thought that this part of his Q is a complete afterthought, and I feel like most Kassadins these days are actually maxing Force Pulse since Null Sphere is so incredibly weak without AP, and Kassadins have to have something to combat the absolute super push the enemy mage mid laner into their tower constantly so you can roam meta, and that's all about what mid lane is. And what mid lane has been about for the longest time is just push, 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 and roam, roam, roam. That's all it is. You try to kill them, but man, you just want to push first and foremost so you can go down there and jump the people bot. Anyway, I just don't think this change is going to mean pretty much anything. The Force Pulse is obviously great. It's his only area of effectability. I guess you got to be careful. Kassadin is insanely snowbally champ. How do you feel about these changes?
It's just irrelevant. There's way too many stronger, like you said, roaming mid, like Katarina. I mean, even Galio could beat Kassadin. Akshan is way better. Tristana is way better. Zed. And all these, these new mid laners, Pike, Diana, all that stuff, you know what I mean? In the lower elos. From what I've seen, I mean, even Kaiser, bro, these changes are so irrelevant. I don't. He just needs a little bit more oomph.
You think he needs a better early game? You got to be careful with that because this guy is, you give him an easy mid game and he's going to become a titan like by the time he's 11, and then a nightmare when he's 16.
That's true, but I mean, put him against an assassin, and he's just another throwaway champ. That's what I'm talking about. Like those prevalent, Irelia, Pantheon. I've seen Tristana. I've seen, Kiana mid, Akshan. All those people, man. They just need to, I don't know, 5%. Come on.
Yeah, the melee AD characters have always given Kassadin a hard time mid, especially Talon, which is his historical go-to counter, and I'm sure he's even better against Kassadin now after his rework.
He's such a coin flip champ. I wish they would switch it from a coin flip. But like you said, I mean, in the past, he's either been monstrously buffed or horrendously nerfed. So I don't know. He's just too hard to balance.
In my opinion, of the champions who have a really slow start, like Azir, maybe Anivia, I think he has one of the better early games amongst those champions. He is just so potent with so little. When he gets like his tier maxed out and he gets his first mythic, whether that's Luden's, Everfrost, Crown of the Shattered Queen, or whatever, he is just so good on 2 items that any of these early game changes you got to be really careful about. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they gave him another change, good or bad, in the very next patch.
Yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing about Kassadin is when my Kassadin, he goes 0-8, and the enemy Kassadin is usually 16-2, and I'm getting butt fucked. So, I don't fuck League.
Yep, we've all been there. All right, let's move on to the Kaiser. Coincidentally, another champion that's even more near and dear to my heart.
Here we go.
Now, I gotta be honest, when they reworked this champion, I was fucking devastated. I was one of those old Kaiser holdouts. Everyone said he was trash, garbage, they didn't like him. I loved the Kaiser, man. I love the old Kaiser, but I gotta admit, the rework was pretty fucking cool. They did a good job like they did with Swain. I think most of the reworks they do, even if I like the old one a lot, they do a good job with reworks. That's something I can always say about Riot. They do a good job with these reworks. Now, with that being said, this is actually a revert of a nerf he got like the month he was reworked because he was very fucking strong when he was first reworked, and this is a complete reversion of that nerf. What do you think? Does he need this, Johnny?
Wow, fuck, man, that's a really good question. Because he's so unbelievably, ridiculously relevant in Silver where I'm out now. God, for fuck's sakes, now that this buff, he's gonna clobber top.
He is definitely a low elo pub stomper like Alawi and Darius.
Yep.
That is exactly what he is.
I'm excited. I actually might jungle Mordekaiser.
They did give his passive help with monsters, so he can jungle. I've done it myself a few times.
So he has chase down potential. Oh, goddamn. Yep, I'm going to love this. That makes me hard, just like Mordekaiser.
Yeah, right, that metal from the Shadow Islands.
Metal.
Anyway, now, a lot of people might disagree with what I'm about to say, but I actually think Mordekaiser is bad in the late game. I know it's crazy. Obviously, he's a Titan in the 1v1, and he's good at split pushing and shit, but when it comes to team fights, I feel like he is just so easy to kite, and if he doesn't land that pull, I feel like he's in trouble, man, and it's really easy to counter his ultimate. Everyone can run around with their Silvermare Dawn or their Scimitar and all that shit, or eat some oranges. But I feel like he really needed this change. I think he really needs this. I think he is a bit weak in the late game.
You know, dude, I played Mordekaiser on a normal the other day, and the chase down potential, like you said, this Vayne was kiting the shit. She was shooting me right in my nuts, and I couldn't chase her down,
Yeah, I mean, he's always been bad against ranged champions. That's probably why they gave him the grab.
Oh my god, bro. I can't wait for this. This is going to be an awesome buff. I can't wait to see.
Now, it's worth noting that he gets the full bonus of this change. If you mouse over this right here, he gets that 9% bonus only at level 11, so he gets access to this pretty early in the game.
Wow, bro. So, hey, do you remember his old ultimate where you used to be able to have a dragon come whoop people's ass?
Yeah, that was really cool, especially if you got the Elder Drake. It was very tanky and it did lots of damage to turrets and shit.
And don't you get like their like an AD carry ghost after you kill them with the old one too?
You just got a ghost of whoever died while the dot was on them. It was
Oh my
extremely
god.
powerful because the the ghost's attack would buff his own secondary shield bar back then. So it would effectively
Wow.
make him invulnerable as long as his ghost could keep attacking if he got an 80 carry ghost, which was the best ghost to get back then. I loved him. He was such a playmaker if he could get the right ghost.
Yeah, well, now he could be a little bit more with this movement speed. This is awesome. I like this. I like this change.
I think it's a good change too. Some
Yeah.
people might be like, "What the fuck? Get that guy out of here. He's way too strong." But
Oh, oh my God, bro. I
as
was just gonna say, he's just gonna get banned into nothingness. But we'll see though. We'll see about the lower elo.
he already gets banned a fair amount, I don't think this is going to change how much he gets banned.
Well, I've seen him not much in pro play. If I don't think I've ever seen him pro play, to be honest.
Yeah, he seems a little too all or nothing for pro play, considering how easy his ultimate is to counter.
Kassadin, going back to him, he used to be a
Hmm.
lot. Like, he used to be in pro play a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
That
mean,
famous X, yep.
when you see people play like Malzahar, everyone grabs like the Quicksilver Sash, so I don't really see why Mordekaiser would be played in the pro scene.
You know, Malzahar is really prevalent in Silver 2 to Silver 1 right now for me. God, that champion is so garbage. He's just a
Yeah.
one and done. Ugh.
A friend of mine named Matt, he is a big fan of Malzahar, and we often talk about how insanely badly that champion needs just a blanket buff across like every one of his abilities.
Yep.
He is a complete shadow of his former self.
Yeah, he sure.
Before all those mage changes rolled out like 5 or 6 years ago, when they changed like his voidlings around and dicked with his ultimate and stuff, he was a powerhouse. His base numbers were redonkulous and had a
Yep.
long ass silence. His ultimate just by itself was like a nuke. And he's lost like fucking everything. That tenure of him where he was played as support in the pro scene, he never survived from those changes. He got nerfed into the ground after those like 2 years.
Which is a bummer, man. Now Lilia, sticks that stick up his ass. I don't like it.
Did you see Lilia?
Yeah, that's irrelevant.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but I
uh,
see. So here's what's cool about that champ, Lilia, dude. Not to get off topic, but I've seen her a lot, and I actually might do this. She is really, really good against Assassin's Mid. Did you know that?
that doesn't seem like it would make sense, and she's kind of one of those extended fights champs.
From what I've seen, every time I've seen a Lilia go mid against Zed, Talon, Pike, all that, she has won every single time. But that's just from a support point of view. I don't know.
I
If
really
I
like her. I really like her. I've actually practiced her top a bit with like Grasp of the Undying, since she technically has like a ranged auto attack. And I've been building her kind of an off AP off tank top, and I really like her honestly. It's hard to find an excuse to play her because there's just so many champions who are either more sturdy than she is, or do more damage, or are more roamy or something. So it's hard to find an excuse to play her, but I do actually really like playing her.
Yeah, I disagree with you about the roaming potential, but yeah, I see what you mean.
All right, let's move on to Poppy. This is also one of my favorite top laners that I just don't get to play enough for a lot of the same reasons I just explained with Lilia. If I wanted to play something more tanky, I could bust out like Ornn or Shen or Maokai or something. And if I wanted something more damagey, I could play like Trundle or whatever the hell. There's so many things that go up there. Now, this change, I'm pretty happy with any Poppy buffs, to be honest. I think that she's in a kind of a middle of the road place. She can kind of surprise you sometimes. She's can be shockingly good in the 1v1 when she's in like the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. So I'm perfectly fine with this W change. I think more opportunities for her to stop people from dashing and bouncing around inside of her W, I'm perfectly fine with. And in fact, I would go even further to allow her W to knock people down multiple times if they dash inside of her W. Maybe that could scale with levels, or with ranks, but I'd be happy if it went to like 1 to 2 to 3 because there's definitely a lot of champions she could lock down multiple times, and I'd be fine with it if she could do it more than once.
Man, I agree 100%, dude. People don't understand how good of a counter she is for people with dash kits. Oh my god, Poppy's so good. She's so good.
Yeah, it's not only that, her Q damage is very difficult to avoid, and it's a large max health shred, and it's really easy to get hit by the first part, and it's really easy to get hit by the second part, and you'll always get hit by both parts if she stuns you at the wall.
That's right. She's really strong for people that could dash in, like I said. I don't see Renekton a lot anymore, but boy, does she counter the dog shit out of Akshan. He can't fly on his little stupid rope. Whatever that thing is, hook shot. Good lord.
I've yet to see that matchup, but I can see that.
See, you gotta play lower elo, man. Lower elo is so silly.
Oh, trust me, I get my fill.
I've seen Poppy jungle, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that's completely viable.
I tried it and I went 0-23, so everyone was pretty mad.
Well, you gotta stick to it, man. I think it's about probably that E max, so she can always get like that 2.5 second stun, probably.
Yeah, I just suck at the game. That's all.
All right, now in reference to her ultimate, anybody who's played any amount of Poppy is going to tell you you use the point blank ultimate infinitely more than the long channeled ultimate where you try to send them back to the fucking fountain. It's just way more consistent. It allows you to set up your stun and catch people out way better than trying to send them over the fucking Baron pit and shit like that. So I'm 100% cool with this. And what they did is they increased the knockup for just the flat unchanneled portion of her ultimate, and everyone is going to love this change.
Just remember, too, 1 second in league time is about 6 months in real life.
Or about 2.5 years if you play Dota.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, and speaking of that, I came from a heavy like ladder Warcraft 3 and ladder background before I started playing League of Legends. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I came from Diablo 2, which isn't it's not really the same, but
it's close. You control like one thing from the top down,
Yep, and it's hotkeys and stuff. But
yep, I played me some Diablo 2 for sure. It was very casual though. I played pretty much just PvE stuff by myself because I was a loser, and me and my stepbrother would just play and suck.
Yeah, you sure are.
We would
you were.
We'd just collect fucking runes and then use them in all the wrong ways because we were stupid.
Ah, bro. I mean, dude, that just holds a place. I think it holds a special place in everybody's heart.
I know. I love Diablo 2 so much. Brilliant game. I have not played the remaster because I assumed they were going to fuck it up somehow like they did with Warcraft 3. But I would, I might get around. I might buy it someday just to see the graphics and play some of those boss fights again with Duriel, Mephisto. It's good shit.
Oh my god, Chris, I'm looking down here. Sejuani looks like she got a buff, and I do want Sejuani. You know I want her, and I don't mean her, I mean the board that she rides.
Bristle, yeah, you want some Bristle.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, okay, let's move on to Sejuani, and why don't you take us off first with this one?
Okay, so now we got the Fury of the North, the cooldown reduced to 12 seconds. Oh wait, 12 by 6 based on level. So, from all ranks, it's going to go significantly better for her in the laning phase if you would like to take her top lane, or even mid, because that passive is ridiculously potent.
I think most people aren't on board with the mid and top shenanigans yet. That's been a Chrissy side project special to play top Sejuani.
Even with the buff passive, no, really?
I mean, time's gonna have to tell. One thing to take into note is this is going to help her in the jungle, not just against champions too. So this is going to make her lose less health to the jungle camps because this is going to come off a cooldown faster.
Oh my god, dude, this is going to be ridiculous.
At least I think so. It's yes, it is monsters, so this will help her. This will help her in the jungle.
Yeah, it's just going to make her way faster and just ganking over and over. I mean, just to me anyways. It's going to just make it so much faster.
Well, the moral of the
Less
story is, since she doesn't have any sustain, she'll be able to keep a higher health pool up in between camps.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I'm too stupid to understand League, so.
Okay. Alright, let's skip some of these bug fixes. And now we are on to Soraka. And we've stumbled upon another champion who is kind of near and dear to my heart, but a long time ago when she was a lot different. Why don't you, what do you think about these changes first, Johnny?
Let's see. Oh, they nerfed her. Oh, I didn't think that was a necessary nerf. Why would they do that? Why'd they nerf her?
Well,
Is she...
I think I know where these changes are coming from. First, they changed like the secondary component of her go-to mythic, that Moonstone Renewer, and now the longer she's in combat, the more healed and shield power she accumulates. For a while, when they first made that change, it was a whopping 35% heal and shield power, and Soraka is someone who stacks like Redemption, that other one that gives heal and shield power that increases your attack speed and magic damage on hit. Forgot what it's called. But she can easily get like 100 heal and shield power, and since she doesn't really have the money to build a ton of AP, that probably made her base numbers pretty bananas, especially now that her W can be basically free, if not almost free to cast, as long as she can constantly hit her Qs. So some diehard Soraka probably was just having way too much fun with all the power and love that she's gotten recently. And even with all that, I still think this is a dumb change because Soraka is like so gated behind the yes or no question of grievous wounds.
Right, exactly. She's so easily counterable. I don't know. I don't find Soraka a relevant, really, support if you... I don't know, man. If you have a 5-man team saying get the goat, break her fucking legs, it doesn't really. I can't see why they would nerf her Astral Infusion. This is a little bit silly.
Yeah, I really
But
haven't
man,
played her enough lately.
What a nerf, though. Good lord, that's terrible.
All right, next we will be moving on to the biggest discussion of these patch notes. This is the Swain Midi rework. And I've got a lot to say about this, to be honest, because when I first saw these changes on the PBE, when they added and removed some stuff over time, and then when I saw the finished product, which was what we're seeing here now, I got to be honest, I was upset. Then I felt a little better about it, and now that I've kind of reflected on all the changes, I'm still kind of upset. Now, yeah, let's start with this passive, and I think a lot of these changes kind of go over people's head because they are so fucking gushing over the fact that Swain can have his ultimate up permanently as long as he continues to drain from at least one enemy champion. And we'll get to that, and that is definitely a bonkers fucking change. But there are some way more important downsides that might fly over like people's head here. And we're going to get to the first one right here, and that's the entire damage component of Swain's passive has been removed, shifted to his E, but his E was not buffed to compensate for the entire lack of losing this 20 to 105 with 30% AP, which, if you played any amount of League, you know that Swain is like played 90-10 or 80-20 support in mid lane. He's not played very much outside of support right now. And to be honest, I feel like on the whole, these changes really hurt support Swain and didn't really do as much for mid Swain. I think in the Supreme late game, though, like talking about a 30-minute game, these changes are actually going to help him. But I think this was a death knell of a change for support Swain and early game Swain, who already is a bit weaker in the early game, in my opinion. Now, let's move on. Talk about another part of his passive. Now, this is probably my favorite change of the whole thing because I'm all about these late game stats, and I like Grasp of the Undying on Swain. As bizarre as that sounds, I just think it like kind of matches his theme a lot. I love Grasp on Swain. Top. I play him top. Anyway, so the fact that they buffed the permanent health he gets from soul fragments from 5 to a whopping 12, this change was actually intelligent because it bypassed the fact that he used to get double the amount of health while his ultimate was active, so it technically would have been 10 when his ultimate was active before, But not only did they double it, but they gave him 2 extra, and now this is permanent. He gains this whether his ultimate is on or off now, so this is an absolutely titanic change, and if you're new to Swain, I recommend one of the things you always try to do is always try to tag people with your W that are on an adjacent lane. Like if you're mid, constantly try to tag and help your top laner and shoot that thing way across the map with top, or constantly try to help your jungler and help the bot lane if you're top, because that thing can reach across almost the entire lane depending on which lane you're in, and you always want to be trying to get those soul fragments, and every time you W someone you get a soul fragment, even if you hit more than one champion with 1 W.
Hey, a little side note, man, that's pretty cool that they made him skill shot heavy now too with his E. It's like you have to hit the skill shot to get the pull. It's no longer on CC. That's kind of an interesting change.
And now that you bring that up, it's worth noting that he can no longer yoink people based on CC that his allies do. He can only do it on his own E now.
Yep, so they made him very skill shot heavy. Kind of a cool change for people that, can walk in and do whatever they want, have other people get the skill shots and not increase the run.
Before we get to his E, let's talk about his Q. Now, this was a pretty devastating change for his like bread and butter consistent damage ability.
Yep.
And while they did slightly buff up the base numbers, which will be of a little bit of help to support Swain, they absolutely gutted the like AP ratio on like the shotgun effect, which it's just gonna
terrible.
It's just a really bad change, because this is like the Vladimir Q, like the Karthus Q. This is his sustained DPS ability basically. And if they made this change, they could have made all these changes, and if they reduced the cooldown on this ability by 0.5 seconds to like 2.5 instead of 3, then I could have got behind this change. But this is just, I think, a bit unforgivable. This is one of the things I feel like is really weighing my mind down, as much as I love that soul fragment buff on his passive. His W remained largely the same, except they removed the like criminally negligent high mana cost that he had before. It's absolutely preposterous that it costs that much.
His trades are gonna suck butt. It's just, ugh. Yeah, this is a horrendous change to his Q.
He was already kind of tough to pull off against a lot of the Bruisers top lane. Now I might be even more kind of a bit disappointed to try to bust him out top now. I used to like playing him against like tanks and the Bruisers that are not very mobile and stuff, like Garen.
Here's the interesting aspect too. If you get people caught in if you get more than one person caught in his CC, I think you can like yank 3 to 4 people depending on if they're in the choke point.
I was actually, you're right. I was actually about to bring that up, and I was going to say, yes, he's gained the ability to yank more than one champion at a time, but a change I would have liked to have seen is an increase on the hitbox of the return portion of his E. It's very small, and if you played any amount of Swain, you'll realize that the vast majority of the time you're only ever rooting one enemy champion, even if it looks like they're close to someone else. It's a very small hitbox. I would have liked it if it was double what it is now to get this mass root yoink.
Yeah, and I would say even if they didn't increase the hitbox, I would wish they would increase the projectile speed coming back.
Well said. I forgot I was going to mention that too. That is a very good idea. Yeah. And then they kind of tacked on that it's the cooldown gets less during his ultimate, but this is one of those abilities that does not gain a lower cooldown with more levels in it, so this change isn't terribly impactful. Of course it's positive, but kind of is underwhelming considering that his cooldown is always 10 seconds on this ability, like a lot of Morgana's ability, a similar champion with doesn't benefit much from levels in terms of cooldowns.
Yep.
And now we move on to the big one. His ultimate does not turn off if he continues to damage at least one champion. This is probably enough to make just about every casual or hardcore Swain person just gush to the point of forgiving all of the other nerfs. And even this ability got nerfed too, to be honest. He lost pretty much all the utility of this bonus in terms of stats. Now, he did make that up with the soul fragment bonus I talked about earlier. He can keep this up. I messed around with this in the practice tool. It is kind of... I don't know what to think about this. It kind of resembles his old pre-rework where he could keep his ultimate on as long as he had mana. This one doesn't even have a mana requirement. It's just as long as you can drain from one champion. Now, with that being said, this did lose a lot of damage, both in the base numbers and the ratio. So this, basically, Sunfire Cape is going to do about as much damage as this ability or more than this does now. Now, of course, it still has a large AoE, and it's going to damage everyone around it. Now, the upside to that is they gave him raid boss levels of healing with a massive bonus to the heal ratio per champion. So if you're draining like 4 people, that's 100% AP ratio, basically, per healing. And while they did nerf the early healing, the late game healing on level 16 is a big buff.
Yeah, so man, they really made it really build heavy. Like, you could go either tanky, maybe you could go AP based, maybe you could go hybrid based. You never know, but anything that gets you a little bit tankier just makes it so much better in the late game. Even though your runes like Gathering Storm would probably be disgusting in a late game, especially with your ultimate now.
Especially now that they've removed Ravenous Hunter from the game and replaced it with a joke of a rune.
Yep, the treasure chest bullshit.
Yeah, it's basically, even supports are probably going to have to do like a second and third look if they want that crapola.
Yep.
Even though it's fucking free money. I have no idea. I don't know why they didn't just fucking nerf it for a 17th time, drop it down to like 4% if they were that butthurt. They replaced it with some stupid shit, though.
Yeah, well, because Warwick, I think Warwick was the only one that really benefited from that.
Oh, I think there's tons of champions that were probably took it. I'm sure Warwick took it too, but stuff like, Aatrox and Akali, I don't know, Vladimir. A ton of people were taking it. Anyone that would take like Gore Drinker or Gore Howl or whatever the fuck.
Oh, I see, like Olaf and shit. Okay.
Anyone with anything would take it.
Boy, am I stupid.
Even with people who take like Fleet Footwork, like Jin or something, would probably take it sometimes.
I don't know why they didn't do anything to the runes just yet.
Oh, they're getting some changes in 12.19 or 9 or whatever that we'll talk about next time. All right. Lastly, we're going to talk about the secondary portion of his ultimate. Now, this, some people might disagree with me with this. What they did was they make it so he can do his second ultimate explosion, but keep his ultimate going. Personally, I don't like this change because I think it was kind of a healthy decision where he had to end his ultimate to do the explosion component. And now he's just getting his fucking cake and eating everyone else's fucking cake too with this change. I think this is, even though they nerfed the damage component on this at full strength, and it was a bit of a nuke before, now it's painfully average damage now for like what it is. It did gain a slow, but I run Rylas a lot, and I think a lot of people run Rylas. I think it's kind of an afterthought. What do you think of this change?
I think, he's just way more support heavy now that they nerfed the AP ratio on that. Oh, no, sorry, excuse me. They nerfed the explosion damage.
Oh, they nerfed the AP ratio too.
They did?
If you look at the bottom, its old max potential was 100% AP.
Oh, I misread. Sorry, I apologize.
So the instant effect they buffed, but no one was. You want the big boom, and they nerfed the shit out of that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that change either. I agree with you. That's a little silly. He needed that. I don't really play Swain much. I don't really have much of an opinion on that. But with these new changes, I will pick him up support, and I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Yeah, I played him a lot of support. I liked him on support.
Yeah.
He's pretty obnoxious sometimes.
I don't know why they would let him Demon Flare and then continue his ultimate. That's a little bit crazy to me.
All right, well, let's summarize. Why don't you tell me, what do you think of all of these changes together? What do you think?
They just made him support heavy, man. That's all. Any way, shape, or form they want him to be support.
Well, in the beginning, I was saying how I thought this was a nerf to his support play. You think this pushed him more into only supporting?
Yes, because now he doesn't have any top lane potential.
I think most people were playing him mid if they weren't playing him support, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I've never even seen him mid, to be honest. I've only ever seen him as support. And
Yeah,
I think the cool part about this is that it's going to let people practice more on their skill shots and be a little bit more skill shot heavy, and then try to, be a little bit more prominent in the choke point team fights and not just run bomb rush into, 5 people under a tower. They
you
have to
know,
be a little bit more careful.
I actually think you're right. I was saying how this nerfed his support play, but you're saying that this nerfed his like his solo lane capability, and you're actually more right than what I said. The fact that this nerfed both actually pushed him more into support than
Yes.
what he already was doing. In fact, I think the moral of the story is that I think when people get off the initial high of what they did with his ultimate, people are going to see that he's kind of a lot weaker early on than he was before.
That's right, and so it's going to make people make more, decisions about, okay, can I trade now? Can I team fight now? Can I just get people on a choke point as opposed to just bomb rushing, under a tower or roaming to other lanes because it's going to be a little bit tougher. Actually, maybe it might increase his roam potential due to the fact that you have to hit your skill shots, and you could go in and have your demon flare on, indefinitely. That's pretty cool. Or demonic ascension.
All right. To summarize, now I know we're ragging on these changes a bit, but it is important to again point out that late game Swain, this is going to be a pretty big buff, and when Swain gets snowballing and gets a lot of these soul fragments early on, he is going to be better than he was before. Just take a look at that new heal AP ratio on his ultimate. When he gets into the thick of things and fight, and you don't even... I'm not actually a fan of Zonias on him, but I think almost everybody just gets Zonias on him. I don't like it. I like getting another tank item. But Zonias is going to be... He's going to get a lot of heals when he's in that stasis now.
Yep. I prefer other items over Zonias as well.
And I've already seen a few raid boss Swain YouTube videos of late game Swain.
Yep, and it's going to open up a lot more items too, considering you could go a different build path. You don't only have to go Spirit Visage and Demonic Embrace and Spirit Fist or what's the fire cape? I'm too stupid to remember.
Golden Aegis?
No, what the hell's the cape that's on fire? Am I retarded?
The cape that's on fire. Yeah, I guess you're retarded. I mean, if you're not talking about Sunfire Cape or Golden Aegis, then I don't know what the hell you're talking.
Sunfire Cape. That's what I'm talking.
Okay,
about.
that's they renamed that to Golden Aegis for some dumb fuck reason. Just like they couldn't leave Ninja Tabbies the way it had been for 12 years. They got to have that as like fucking steel dicked broken toes or whatever.
Plated dick caps.
Or stuff, yeah. I'll like sometimes I've mentioned this a billion times. I feel like sometimes they make changes in this game just for the sake of making changes and desperately trying to keep the game fresh. That's just my that's my conspiracy theory. A lot of people might not agree with that.
Chris, I'm gonna go into a ranked game after this and play support Swain. I'm gonna see how it works out.
I think. One more thing to note is for people picking up this champ, you always want to max his W second. You just want to start accruing those soul fragment stacks as fast and as early as possible. And it might be you just don't want to max his pull. It doesn't get any better, basically.
Yeah, and if you're a piece of shit player like me and you suck, you max W first.
Oh, that would be a mistake, even with his Q being gutted. He still needs that. All right, let's move on to Silas, the man that Johnny is gay for. I will let him talk about this change.
All right, so now this opens up. Okay, I don't even know where to start. Wow. Depending on the team comp, Silas is going to be so much more prevalent in the mid game, the early game, actually just spiking at level 6, depending on the team comp. This cooldown and later on, oh my god, he's gonna be bonkers. This this is the best change I've ever seen. I can't wait to see him more in pro play. I can't wait. He's already really relevant in pro play, I believe. And gold elo to platinum and maybe even lower diamond. I think he's gonna get really, really, really just a lot of play. This is crazy. This is the best change I've ever seen.
I'm also very happy with this change. As someone who also likes to take strange things top, I like playing me a little bit of Silas top. And I can tell you, this is actually the second time they have reduced the cooldown on his ultimate. When it was 40, I was starting to get interested in this champion. Now it's fucking going down to 30. Trust me, it's pretty easy to get like 50, 60, 70 ability haste. Get this thing down to 15, 16, 17 seconds. And, of course, you're going to take Ultimate Hunter. And then you're going to get this fucking thing down to 12, 15 seconds. There's no excuse why you can't steal 2, maybe even 3 ultimates in one team fight with this.
In one team fight, that's correct. Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
And I'm sorry, continue.
So, now, there's like a lot of relevant picks against him. Like, maybe Yasuo does really well. Zoe does really well. Zed, Cass.
I hear Darius is the go-to pick because he can't apply hemorrhage stacks.
I have never seen a Darius mid.
I hear that's the go-to counter because Darius applies the hemorrhage stack, so his ultimate is bananas. And if Silas steals his ultimate, it only does the base damage, so it's really weak.
Oh yeah, I guess that's the deal. I suppose. I mean, it's more like. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet.
That's what I've heard though.
That is a hard counter, but actually, wow, now that I think about it, that's a really hard counter. Huh. No shit.
The only thing I'm concerned about with this change, and it's kind of a good problem, but he's going to start actually seeing some like ultimate theft inflation, because this is going to get down to such a low level that the actual on-target cooldown of these ultimates on the enemy champions are going to be dramatically higher than the actual cooldown of his ultimate ability to hijack ultimates.
Yeah, so that's the bad part. You have to pick and choose, so I'm really going to be excited about the picking and the choosing of the team comp ultimates. Like, if a Zoe's on your team, you're not going to pick, you're never, ever going to take that pile of shit ultimate. That's worthless.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting into. Once you steal those good ultimates like Malphites or Fizzes or something, then you're going to start getting a little desperate, and suddenly you're going to be like, well, stealing that fucking Jason Nidalee's ultimate is suddenly a little more appealing, even though they're laughably not as good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just, boy, a transformation ultimate, does it really even stay?
I believe you get one rotation of their like kit, and that's it.
Boy, that sure does suck.
I don't even know what you get if you steal like Udyrs.
Do you get the fire Udyr? Is that it?
Maybe you just get to use his stances all like one time or something. I'm not sure. But this change is going to make you start scraping at the bottom of the barrel, and old things that look stupid you're going to see a little bit more now.
Yeah, perhaps. Jeez. Man, this change is going to be unbelievably insane. His ultimate, like you said, with Ultimate Hunter, your runes, and then if you want to go a ability haste build, boy oh boy, the hijack is going to be bonkers.
All right, let's move on, and I'd just like to give a little shout out to Talia here, who in the next patch is receiving like fucking 4 pages of patch changes. They're giving her a bit of a rework, I imagine, to make her more of a low effort pick mid lane like Ryze, since she was pushed into like exclusively the jungle. A lot of the changes she's getting next patch are to help her mid lane, and they're making like 1 million changes to every one of her abilities.
Yeah, I think I read something about that. Her little rock Q at the end of it is going to have a giant rock come out and shoot him. Give her a little bit, more laning potential.
I think cool. I saw that too. I don't know if they're committing on that, but yeah, some crazy shit. After this, when the next patch hits, I'm going to do some due diligence and go through reading all of her changes so I have something intelligent to say. But there's a lot of shit that they're changing with her, and a lot of it seems like some kind of nonsense, and a lot of it is kind of splitting hairs. So I haven't looked super hard on it because she's a bit out of my wheelhouse. I never really found her a very interesting champion, even amongst
Yeah,
mages, which I like pretty much all the mages.
I find her irrelevant in any form of the game. She has a really big nose, so hopefully they make that bigger in the next patch. We'll see.
Okay, that'll scare those camps off.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move on to. We got a little buff here for Tristana. My opinion is that she is already stank nasty with that explosive shot, or
Yep.
whatever her E's
This
called. I don't know if this explosive shot is her E or her ultimate. I forget.
uh something Buster. I can't remember
You're
now.
right.
Buster shot.
Buster shots are ultimate. You're right. Anyway, I think that she's already like one of the most probably top 3 hyper carries in the game. I feel like this is unnecessary.
Extremely.
Her all in combo is the most like cheese lord of cheese shit that you play against bot lane. She is so
Yes,
snowbally that even giving her like 10 more AD, whatever this adds up to, I feel like is a bit unnecessary.
it is. I agree. This was an unnecessary pick, or excuse me, unnecessary buff, and she's just gonna get banned from here on out. So
I don't know if this is enough to get her banned, but it is unnecessary.
very unnecessary.
All right. Next, I'm going to throw this over to Johnny. This is someone he's played about 50 games of for every 1 game I've played, so take it away.
Okay, now that the AP ratio is increased from 80% to 90%, and the Void Rift is increased from 15 to 20, his trading potential is going to be so much better against these counter picks in mid, these assassins, like these long range picks too as well. Maybe Xerath, Pike, uh, even Morgana does really well. Lux does very well against him. It's just going to give him so much more potential to outpoke and maybe get a little bit more play and some love in mid. So I love these changes.
Now, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to say that I think these changes, while they're obviously going to help him mid, are just going to double down on people's love of support Vel'Koz, you know?
Oh my god, dude! I love support Vel'Koz. It's just potential for the poke. This is beautiful. I love it. This is great. This is gonna be awesome.
I think I would even be happier with a much bigger buff to his Void Rift because far from like the impressive zoning tool that say Rumble's Equalizer is, and this is kind of something in a similar vein, I always felt that this ability's damage is incredibly underwhelming, especially since you can't max it first if you're not mid for the clear. You have to max Q when you're on support. And even when they get hit by both aspects, or both parts of the damage, it's really his passive that's doing the damage, not the W. So I'd be happy if they even gave this another buff.
That's what I was gonna mention. I think what they should do if they don't buff Void Rift, I think they should buff his true damage at least a tad to complement the Void Rift. But like you said, man, it's a double Void Rift shot. Anybody with a quarter of a brain could walk to the left or right and make it irrelevant. But I think the AP increase is going to be awesome if you can hit your skill shots. He's a very skill shot heavy champ, so it's going to
Yeah,
make it look. Yeah,
that's why I'm fine with buffs on this champion, because I think when you think of this champion, you also think of champions like Lux or Ziggs or Xerath. So the problem
yep,
with that is all of those champions I feel like are more consistent than Vel'Koz. His damage is very situational. I think he's harder
yep,
to play,
yep.
harder shit to land than all of those other champions. That's why I'm fine with a big buff to his Void Rift. And I also like to point out, this is only a buff to the first component of his W, or Void Rift, not both components. So this isn't like 20 and then another 20. This is just
That's right.
20 plus whatever the old second half was.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, consistent people like Zillion and Karma and all that stuff. He really, I think he needs to buff against the champions like that. Janna, Karma, people like that, with shields. Yumi, maybe. It's gonna be a little bit better, I think. But boy, I wish it was just a tad bit more. That's okay though. I think the initial burst is gonna be great.
All right, well, while we're talking about Vel'Koz and we have a Vel'Koz expert on the line, why don't you tell us what is your go-to mythic and what support or what AD carry would you like to support when you go Vel'Koz for the peeps out there?
So my primary my primary mythic that I go to, I mean, it sounds silly, is Luden's Echo, but recently, and I don't know why, I've been going Demonic Embrace, or excuse me, um, Leandri's Torment, and here's why. Uh, for some reason, man, I've been hitting my skill shots like crazy, and if you can get those skill shots in, Leandri's plus your ultimate plus the Void Rift right after Plasma Fisher, or whatever the hell his Q's called. Boy, that burst for Leandri's is just nasty. And then I go Ultimate Hunter in the Red Tree and Electrocute, and boy, oh boy, that ultimate is just fries people's ass hairs.
Yeah, electrocute sounds like a natural thing he would take. So when you land the tectonic disruption, you're basically guaranteed to get electrocute.
Yep, but so I mean, you have to be a little skill shot heavy. You have to hit those skill shots. If not, it's a little bit more difficult. And then so depending on what the team comp is like, if it's people that can kind of bounce around like maybe a Vayne or maybe like Ezreal we talked about, I just go Ludens just for that burst. But if it's people like Sion, maybe Yorick, somebody mid that's a little bit bigger, whatever Morgana stuff like that I can't skill shot, I'll just go Leandries.
All right. Well, going back to my original question, like, who do you, who's your go-to handful of like 80 carries that you want to play this alongside?
Samira, Tristana, Ezreal, anybody that could jump on their ass, even
Uh,
Graves,
yes,
anybody.
Samira. That's a good. I didn't think of that. Samira is so. She is such a silly cheese of Lord of a Champion.
She is
Yeah.
my number one champion that I would love to support with Vel'Koz, and I
Yeah.
have 100% won every single time. Because once I hit that E, she is on their fucking nuts like white on rice, dude.
She is. She is something else. Even after they've nerfed her like 5 times, she is still something else with that follow up. Best in the game, probably. Her and Lucian, I think, probably have the best follow up in the game.
I pretty much prefer, yeah, Tristana, Lucian, Samira, Ezreal, anybody that could go in, Graves, and I think Jin, because Jin with his W, if he could hit that shit, that is just, oh my god, bro. You know what? Fuck Swain. I'm just gonna play Vel'Koz. I love this champion.
Well, these
You
changes
know,
are actually already went live like a week ago, so
you know what, Chris? I actually just realized, me being a support, I don't actually use what is the traditional so-called supports. I'm actually technically a mid laner.
yeah, this guy's a mage boy. Trust me, he don't play those enchanters very often.
No,
Although
I
it's
do
not, it's
not.
not beneath him to bust out the occasional tanky support though.
No, man. I'll go Nautilus or Leona.
He used
I'll
to be
go
a
some.
Tarek. He used to be a Tarek boy for a little bit there.
Boy, they sure did make him really. Yeah, it's just really hard to play him. It costs 500 mana for his Q, so I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, if I was making a list of champions that desperately needed a buff, I would put Tarek at like 1, 2, 3 on that list.
Yep,
He
yep.
is
I would.
so fucking
Yeah.
desperately need for a buff across everything.
All right, Chris. We
All
are
right.
almost to the end here.
Yep, we just got a few changes left. All right, now I'm going to talk about this Vladimir change, and as someone who plays him, he's good mid, obviously. I'm a big Vladimir top fan. I think he's better into a lot of those matchups as top lane. Well, actually, let me just change to talk about this change. Having 27 armor and 23, I think is one of the... This might not seem like much, but I think this is one of the most really crazy change. This is a bit of an overreach because this shores up Vladimir's early game a lot, and the only people he's really vulnerable to are like AD bruisers and off tanks that can all in him early on. In other cases, he's really good against tanks, and he's really good against like pokey mage champs who just don't have enough consistent damage to push him out of lane. His only real threat in the laning phase are these melee all-in bruisers like Riven, Fiora, those types. So this change is, I'm a diehard Vladimir boy over here. This is a bit of an overreach. He does not. This is too much shoring up his early game for what a Titan he is in the late game. I think this is unnecessary.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I've played him twice ever since League came out. I don't really have an opinion on this. Uh, best of luck to you playing that champ, man. All I know is that, yeah, you're right, like Talon, Zed, Vhagar,
Well, those are mid
Diana.
champs. Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about top?
Well, most people play him mid, and this is only going to make him even better against the things that he had a hard time against, which are the champions that you mentioned, like or Yasuo, Talon, Zed, and Yone and stuff like that.
I've only ever seen him mid, sorry.
Yeah, I think that is the most common. I like playing weird things top that are like tanky still. That's my kind of niche.
I'm in super low elo, so I mean, there you go. What? Wait, why did they nerf Zaya? Why?
We're getting there. Lastly, what was I want to say? I feel like similar when we were talking about Kassadin, you have to be really careful about these changes that shore up the early game potential of these late game powerhouses, and anything that gives him an easier time in the laning phase is like a change that's going to echo throughout like the later portions of the game when he gets strong, because he's, in my opinion, he's one of the strongest late game champions in the game, and he always has been, and this is only going to help him transition to that even better. You got any last things to say?
No, sorry, Chris. I don't play the champ enough.
That's fair. Alright, I don't really have much to say about Zaya because I actually don't like this champion very much, and I don't really play her that much. I personally think this change is a holdover from the transfer from cooldown reduction to ability haste, and the fact that she always takes Essence Reaver, and I think they just realized, oh, we got to adjust for that, and I feel like that's what this was.
Yeah, I don't really have any relevant opinion either. I don't play AD carry, and if I did play AD carry, Zaya would be my go-to, but I very, very rarely, probably out of like 500 games, I've only played AD carry 4 or 5 times maybe. So I have no opinion.
Obviously, this is a nerf, but her Q is... the damage component in her Q is completely after... it's completely pointless. Her Q is merely a setup for her snare when she pulls the feathers back, so it losing some of the damage is pretty inconsequential. The cooldown reduction, obviously, everyone's going to be salty over that because they're already taking Essence Reaver every game, but I'm telling you, this was one of those holdover changes that they forgot about. That's pretty much the only reason I think she got this. They forgot to nerf this before.
Yeah, I'm not understanding why. I don't know. I mean, do I see her pro play? Not much. But yeah, I have no opinion. I have no idea.
All right, we got 3 more things to talk about, and this one I actually feel is a pretty big deal, especially since Xerath has also been pushed to more of a support position and drastically less of a mid laner than he used to be, and this is a big deal, not only because the max stun is a lot longer, but his point-blank stun that he can land effortlessly on when you're on top of his nuts is way better too. And when it comes to poke supports, it's all about that bush control and how annoying you can be to the enemy AD carry. What do you think?
That's right. That's right. I agree. This is a great buff. He's going to be awesome in the support role. And I don't really see him taking mid too much anymore, but he's just going to be that more relevant. And if you could get your CC off, man, and you're very skill shot heavy, boy, oh boy, is this going to freaking do really well in the early game. Especially at level 1, that 0.75 seconds, like that's all the time in the world.
Yes, it's also worth noting that this buff will be active on him throughout the entire game. This isn't gated behind ranks on his E or levels. This is a flat stun increase on his level 1 shocking orb throughout the entire game. He gets this the entire game. He doesn't have to grow into this buff. He'll always have this.
This is going to be outstanding for anybody that can hit a skill shot. That's going to benefit people. It's just going to help them a lot.
This may be a little frustrating to play against bot, but I think a champion that is so entirely skill shot dependent as Xerath, I think this is a perfectly fine change for him.
I agree, 100%. I play me some Xerath support, and when I miss that shocking orb, my AD carry AFKs, and it tells me to go fuck myself. So, there you go.
Okay. Right to the wood chipper, huh?
Yep. Tells me to walk into a wood chipper and tie my nutsack to a tree and jump.
Okay, there's a cliff there too, huh?
Yep.
Okay, anyway, let's move on to Zoe. This is, I feel like we wish we could have brought your brother into this one. I just don't give a shit about this champion, to be honest. I feel like this is one of the most gimmicky champions in the game. And I guess I have a certain amount of respect for people that can play this really well, because she is a little difficult to play. But when I take into account just how little AP she needs to like one-shot the casters and the melee minions with her Q, I feel like this isn't really justified to give her buffs to her mana costs.
Boy, I wish I cared about this champion. I have never played her. I don't find that playing her once and one for all is even relevant. I don't know the champion. Sorry.
Yeah.
All I know is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say about this. I feel like she's in a good spot right now. She's a very feast or famine champion. She's all about those fucking picks and shit. And yeah, I don't really know what to say. I don't think she needed the buff. I think she's in a good place right now after she got like a handful of nerfs when she first came out a few years back. I think she's just fine the way she is.
Every time I have her on my team, and like you said, I really appreciate people that could play her, and I commend them for doing really well. I tried that champion, like I said, one time and one for all, or all for whatever the fuck it's called.
I was in that game. Remember, I went AD.
Oh,
and I was like,
bro.
Yeah.
I commend anybody that could play this champion. I am way too stupid, and jeez, dude. She even does good against, assassins like Fizz and Katarina and stuff. She's just, what a great champion.
I'm really worried about when people finally figure out that she's probably not bad as a support, because that would be really annoying. You remember when people used to play Nidalee support way back when? Way back when. That's kind of what I thought. That's what I fucking thought she would be doing not long after she came out, and I was shocked that she never got played like support. And for how redonkulous her Q is with like no AP at max range, I'm just kind of surprised. And it's an area of effectability, which is just criminal.
So let me tell you a short story about that. I played against a Zoe support, and my Zyra caught her in CC just one time, and we fucking clobbered the dog shit out of that lane after she fell behind. Boy, oh boy, did they flamed her like you wouldn't believe, man. They all chatted all game and just, this Zoe fucking sucks, Zoe support, wah. So, I mean, it's doable, but Jesus, dude, I don't know. They have to buff her a little bit more for support, maybe.
Definitely don't want to buff her.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Don't know what they could buff for her support play that wouldn't affect, like, how well she does mid.
True, absolutely. They have to nerf something else to make her, but they don't want to shove her to a support world. They want her to be mid. You remember Scion support?
I still see that every now and then. I'd be fine with that. I mean, people were playing like fucking Trundle support, and all he does is like put the thing in front of people. So
yeah, Trundle support was actually really strong for a while. Galio support is just silly.
Now that I actually still play. That I think that's very underutilized for how good his all-in can be.
You know who they should not have support is Ivern, because they should remove that champion from the game. He sucks.
Okay. I do think he needs like a fairly large-scale rework, something that makes it okay for him to support, but something that doesn't also completely push him out of jungle. I'd like for them to maintain his theme of not being damaged by the jungle camps, which is why I always like scratched like my head off at the fact that he loses health when he consumes the jungle camps, thus defeating the point of not fighting them. So I never understood that champ, to be honest. I don't think they knew what the fuck they were doing either. They were just like, well, Maokai, but skinnier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll make a
Anyway,
champion. Yeah. Okay. All right, man.
all right, let's move on to our final change, and I actually have some pretty big hate for this one. Now, you don't see this a lot in the game, but they made it so you cannot buy a stopwatch when you already have Zonia's or GA, which means they've removed the double stasis effect from mostly the AD people would buy this, but you could also do a triple even if you were some goofy AP person that bought Guardian Angel. But I think this is one of those times where it was like something that you didn't see a lot, but it was a cool little like knowledge fact and skill expression kind of thing in the game that you and keep in mind you can only do this once a game, because after you stopwatch once it turns into the broken stopwatch. So the fact that they took this out of the game, I feel, is just so fucking stupid. You could wait all game for something important and bust out the double stopwatch during like a fight later on. And I gotta be honest, when I see these kind of changes where they take away some small little kind of expressive thing, it just really upsets me. And what do you think?
Well, I thought it was really interesting because you know how you could get the commencing stopwatch as well? So I was always wondering, can you get the commencing stopwatch, then buy a stopwatch, then get a Zonia's, then get a GA? So you could actually potentially have four
Uh,
with Lysandra, is what I'm saying.
I don't know about that. I've done like the double Zonias like 10, 15 times maybe, but I'm still a big fan that it stayed in the game.
Yep, they didn't need to remove it. That had a lot of outplay potential, and I thought, like you said, it was really expressive towards people that were actually actively thinking about outplaying somebody and using that to their advantage. So
And
it
for
was
like
really
whoever at Riot that was like butthurt over this change, you can always press tab and see that they have both in their inventory, so there was counterplay to this.
yes, absolutely. Just walk away. I mean, what the hell?
Okay, now there is a hotfix at the end of this. We won't really be going into these, but it is worth noting that it seems that I was somewhat right on my theory that this did put Swain in a bit of a precarious position, because these two small buffs he got were to his base stats after he got all those changes like about a week and a half ago.
Yes.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the 12.8 patch notes. From now on, I'm going to try to get these videos out within like a day or two or three, depending on when I can get a recording with Johnny here. And I'm really great to start this series up, and I hope to keep this going for a long time. And yeah, you got anything you want to say, Johnny?
Yeah, bro, go fuck yourself. I mean, yeah, bro, have a good day.
Okay.
No, Chris. All right, thanks for having me, Chris. I hope I could become like a little bit more knowledgeable and have relevant opinions about, League of Legends. I'm more of a casual player. However, I do watch the pro scene, and I'm very, very much into the pro scene.
Well, that's
Uh,
something I lack, so I think it's important to have a different dynamic between the two of us, you know?
yeah, and I mean, again, I'm a casual watcher of the pro scene. I do have my favorites like, Abadage coming over to 100 Thieves in North America. I do love Fnatic over there in Europe. I love, T1 in Korea. I like, RNG. I like, I guess that's pretty much it, actually. Oh, I guess I like Unicorns of Love. They get into every fucking tournament ever because they're the only relevant team over there. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm about as knowledgeable about that as you were about Vladimir, to be honest.
Yep, I was like, I like Vladimir. He has blood, but pretty much. So,
All right, that'll do it, folks, and we'll see you for 12.9. This 12.8 did come out over a week and a half ago, so our next video is going to be a little bit sooner than usual because of the delay on this first one. All right, thank you all for watching this.
all right, Chris. Later.